One thing that I am definitely tired of, Frank, is the heat. By golly, the heat has been awful. And I know it's summer and it's hot, but when we start talking about 4 to 5 day stretches in 100+ degree air temperatures, and that's before you even start factoring in the heat index, that is unusual. We do have a table. I'll try to read some of these off, and Frank's going to quantify some of these. But we did, in fact, have record-breaking heat. We shattered records in some places. Columbia, I think the record was 101, but our table says 102. We'll get back to that in a second. Charlotte, 101. Raleigh and Charleston, about 100. Charleston got featured twice, so that's a nice job. But actually, I guess it helps quantify that two locations that are similar to each other can still have different air temperatures. Other areas we know were in the upper 90s, and again, it was just kind of the consecutive days after days after days after days of either over 100 degrees, or I think I saw a GSP tweet before that they factored it out for consecutive days above 90, and it was something mind blowing. I'll find the record in a minute.
Yeah, they've GSP set a record for a number of consecutive 90+ days, which you think, well, someplace in South Carolina it gets to 90 all the time. Why is that a big deal? Well, the number of days that it gets above 90 is an interesting statistic.
Mm-hmm. Here it is. Here,
even though it might happen on average, 50 to 60 days in a year at GSP, if it happens 80 days in a year, that's pretty hot summer. 39 days in a row, I mean, that's a lot for it to get to 90 or higher. And, up in the upstate, you typically get at least a day where the thunderstorms start popping early, or one or two anyway, and it only gets to like 86 or 87 because of that. The same thing here in Columbia. I mean, we get to 100 3 or 4 times a year typically,
right? But not always back to back.
Every now and then we get a year where it doesn't get to 100, but we typically being the devil's armpit or whatever for nothing. So anyway, we get it's hot all the time, but typically you do get a day every now and then where you get a cold front get in, usually far south, or an afternoon thunderstorm pops up right over you at 1:10 p.m. before it can get really hot instead of
I did luck out at least
4:30 like it usually does.
Yeah. I had a day where a tiny little thunderstorm popped up ever so briefly, and it dropped the temperature, according to my Tempest, which is on my roof. Take that for what it is. It dropped it by like 20 degrees. We went from like 100 to 80. It was the greatest 5 minutes of the week.
A good thunderstorm can knock the temperature down in a hurry. I think the day it was 101, we actually had the thunderstorms popping early. It was just that it was the temperature was on a rocket ship that day and got to 101 by like 2 o'clock, and then thunderstorms started hitting it at 2:30, and then by we had a downpour, rained all the way down to like 77. Which that's one of the things about Columbia. It can be pouring and pouring and pouring for like 30 minutes, and the rain only brings it down to like 77 or 78.
Well, that was going to be my other tidbit, right? Is this is not only a strain on the infrastructure when we talk about like the amount of electricity that is required to power all these air conditions, but our bodies too. We're not getting the ability to cool down at night.
Right. And we had a day, I think it was Sunday morning, or maybe it was Monday morning, where the low was 80 here in Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty hot even by Columbia standards, and of course that's at the airport. The airport right out in the Sandhills, it actually tends to cool off more than other places at night. So places like downtown Columbia or my old apartment where it didn't cool off much at night. I mean, I had nights when it only fell to like 82 or 83 when I was living over there next to 26, and that's rough, especially if you don't have air conditioning.
Absolutely,
that's so that your body recovers. And if you're like me, if it's real hot, you don't sleep at night, and it's hard to sleep when it's hot. You add sleep deprivation on top of all the other things that are stressing your body. So that's the reason why people are dropping in these heat waves.
Quite literally. My HVAC here in my house, and I'm lucky to have it, but it is 18 years old, and it held